Well, good afternoon. Very pensive mood that I'm in this afternoon, and I've actually been in it all day. The title that I've selected for the video is Oneness, Unconditional Love, and Justice. And I wrote the blurb that goes like this. Frankly, today has been a day of deep introspection. Again. Dialogue with various people in regard to principles of oneness and the spiritual ideal of unconditional love raise questions for me in regard to what I feel is the absolute necessity of justice. As I've said many times, without justice there can be no peace on earth. Yet some insist that calling for justice is not loving. A loving person, it is said, would not even think in terms of punishing another for their actions. These same individuals, I think, also subscribe to the belief that there is no good or evil. In fact, they go so far as to say we must be neutral about things. Yes, I have wrestled with this before, and probably will again until the issue is finally resolved. Please bear with me as I allow my thoughts and feelings to flow for your consideration. It's interesting that shortly after I wrote that blurb, I went and started checking emails again, which I hadn't done since this morning. And one of the first emails that I came to was a response done 4 hours ago. Well, I haven't refreshed the page, so it might be 5 now. But anyway, it was from Aristo in response to my comment in a thread on my Facebook wall. And I wrote in that thing, there is such a thing, I am convinced, as righteous judgment. In fact, non-judgment, when judgment is plainly called for, is also a crime, whether purposeful or ignorant, omission or commission. Some things are obviously wrong, and the New Age bullshit that says there is no right or wrong is simply insane matrix programming designed to allow psychopaths to escape responsibility. And Aristo commented, perhaps the word judgment has been overly abused and we are turned off by it. How about the word redress? I don't think that rightful redress is a sign of spiritual immaturity. I feel we deserve rightful redress of the wrongs that have been and are still being perpetrated. This is not only about forgiving what has been done. It is about stopping what is being done perpetually and heeding the cries of the tormented. How can anyone call themselves spiritual and not consider this a priority? Indeed, I needed that from Aristo, because I take lots of things to heart. I've always done that since I was a little kid. If somebody hurt or somebody felt that I hurt them, I would ponder it for a long time and sometimes really beat myself up, especially when I was a fundamentalist Christian, but it still happens to some degree from time to time. Because I want so much to be the best I can. I want so much to be open and honest and to be loving to people. But I see some of the things that have been going on in the world. And it irritates me, to say the very least, about it. It angers me and gets me enraged, to say the most, about it. How can we allow some things that happen in our world to continue day in and day out, week in and week out, year in and year out, and not raise our voices and not be concerned, and worse, develop an attitude of, it's okay, I'm neutral. I'm not going to take sides here. I don't have an opinion. I'm not going to judge anybody. Some things are simply wrong. And as I've said in other videos, probably more than one, if someone came and hurt you or hurt somebody that you loved, your own righteous indignation would rise up. You would want to defend yourself or your loved one against a wrongdoing. You can't be neutral on some things when obviously someone is overrunning another person's free will for no justifiable reason. And most of the things our governments do in the name of law and order are unjustifiable. There is no such thing as a crime against a state, or a crime against a corporation, or a crime against any kind of an institution, because institutions, corporations, and governments are artificial persons, artificial things. They're not real. And you can't commit a crime against something that is not real. That is the foundation of most injustice in our world. That things that are not real have been elevated to the status of equality with human beings. And what they've done to do that is they've demoted the status of human beings to the status of corporations. We've talked about that before. That's the straw man issue. When your name is all in capital letters, you're not seen as a human being. You're seen as someone that died, someone that is ignorant, someone that has no rights, someone that has only privileges granted by the state. The state is your nanny and your papa. The state is your nursemaid. The state is your master, and you are the servant. It's a slave system. And it runs on injustice, it runs on coercion, it runs by force. Now, until that system is brought to its knees and ended, there can never be peace on earth. That's simply the reality, folks. And we have to see it. Thank God people are waking up. But God help us if these people that continue to blaspheme common sense, which to me is what it is, by saying that we have to be neutral, by saying that we cannot judge something as being wrong. Some things are wrong, period. And I appreciate Aristo pointing out the word redress instead of judgment. To redress grievances. I have sincere grievances against corporations that pose as governments. I have sincere grievances against corporations that poison our food, and poison our air, and poison our water, and poison our land. I have sincere grievances against institutions that teach lies, against a media that plays with criminals and does what criminals want them to do instead of telling the truth on behalf of the people of the world. I believe we need to redress our grievances against a society that is obviously psychopathic, sociopathic, insane. And it's crazy to develop these concepts that are supposed to be spiritual concepts that allows the perpetrators of these crimes against humanity to get away with them, and to think that requiring them to be punished and to be held accountable for their actions, there's something wrong with that. And yet this is an idea that permeates the matrix of our thinking in the New Age spirituality. And it's simply, to me, it's simply gone astray. It is matrix programming, as I said, wherever I said it. It is something that allows the perpetrator of crimes to feel like to get the people to feel like, well, they didn't do anything wrong. They were just doing something good. Now, I'm not saying that the evil that is being done in the world does not have a positive effect. It has the effect of waking people up. But that doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it justifiable. That doesn't make it good. Do you understand what I'm saying? We need to ensure that every human being on earth is granted and honored in protecting their natural rights to be, to travel, to have a roof over their head, to have to not be suppressed and not be put into a slavery system. And yet the whole world has been put into a slavery system by these criminals. Yes, it's for our awakening. I'll give you that. I've given you that all along, going all back from even before I began doing videos. I've written about that. That has been a principle that I've seen, and it's a good principle. But the principle that unconditional love doesn't ever stand up for truth and doesn't ever take sides is absolutely sheer nonsense. It's crazy. And yet I want so much to do the right thing that every time that I'm challenged with these thoughts, with these ideas, I again take it to heart. I again re-examine it. I again look at myself. Am I being loving or am I being unloving by wanting the people that have committed crimes against humanity to pay for their crimes, to redress the grievances for what they've done? And it must be. I read somewhere, I don't know when it was. I've read this probably numerous times, but I think the most recent thing that I read said that there are 30,000 people in the world, and I'm sure that's a round number, not an exact number, that need to be arrested for crimes against humanity. And I'm sure that list will include political heads of state, it will include legislatures, it will include numerous judges in the judiciary around the world, especially key judges, including Supreme Court judges. It will include heads of media corporations, especially heads of media corporations. I mean, they have done probably one of the most heinous crimes of lying to the people and putting forth the propaganda so that the people would not know the truth and not know how to live in this world and not even know what's happening, because the people that own the communications things are liars. They are pathological liars, and they control other people through the threat of the loss of their jobs. And politicians are controlled through the loss of their lives or the lives of their loved ones. Dennis Kucinich had 2 deaths in his family of his brothers, I believe, because he was someone that dared to speak out, unlike some current politicians that still don't speak out. But around the world, we have these insane people that have been in charge of some of the most important institutions in human culture, our education systems, where they teach nonsense like what's the one where they need that says that the world is overpopulated and we need to cut the population of the earth down to 500 million people. In other words, get rid of 6.5 billion people from the planet, especially the Asians and the Africans and the people of color. Thank God for the people of color. Thank God for their contributions. I mean, they have, if we could only unleash the creativity of some of these cultures that are considered third world cultures. I mean, these are beautiful people, beautiful souls. I mean, if you want to get rid of people, get rid of the psychopaths, for God's sake. They are like a cancer eating away at humanity's heart and soul. And it's time that we awaken enough and stand together. We end up attacking each other over things like, Ron, you're judging. No, yes, I'm judging. But my purpose is not to condemn. My purpose is to redeem. My purpose is to set people free so that we can have a system that truth and justice do prevail, that law and order means something, that people are accountable, that everyone is equally accountable for his or her actions, and no one can hurt another without having a price to pay, that there are consequences involved for doing harm, intentional harm to another. There's a price to be paid for causing people loss. There are things that must be done to bring retribution for the crimes committed when one person overruns or one government agency overruns the rights of another and takes away their free will choice when it's not called for. Everything needs to be retrained in our system. Everything needs to be repurposed. We need to get back on track, folks, because we have the opportunity before us right now to make a world, as I've said so many times, that works for everyone. But until we address the issue of justice and understand that that is about oneness, because when they hurt my brother and sister against my brother and sister's will, they are hurting me. When they hurt that country and they start bombing that nation, and when I say they, I'm talking about the military-industrial complex. I'm talking about the psychopaths that have started all the wars and create all of the problems that we have to face. Until we address this and redress those grievances that we have against them, we cannot do what we want to do. We cannot have the world we want to have. And so I wrestle, and so I share, and so I raise my voice once again on behalf of those that don't have the ability, or seems like they don't have the ability, to raise their own voice. I speak on their behalf, and I speak against, yes, against those that continue to perpetuate such crimes again and again and again. It's time that these 30,000, whatever it is, people that have committed and continue to commit crimes against humanity are brought to justice. And may that day come quickly, and may it come as peacefully as is possible. And I ask God, angels, and our ET brethren to come to stand with us. Not do it for us, but stand with those of us who want peace on earth and want to really begin to create a society based on love, and always justice with mercy. Always with mercy. Thank you for listening. Namaste.